Welcome to the Friday Happy Hour with victory strategist, award-winning author and your happy hour host, Annmarie Kelly. Each week, Annmarie chats with women who have reinvented, started over or wrote fabulous next chapters. They share how they overcame their midlife challenges and how you can too. So kick back with some good happy hour something to drink and enjoy today's show.
Welcome. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly. I'm that recovering good girl and your victorious woman empowerment partner. And this is where us victory chicks, and you men who care about us, meet on Fridays to chat about things we can do to overcome our challenges, get empowered, and make our lives sparkle. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I'm glad you're here enjoying a summer Friday Happy Hour with me. Today's guest is architect turned entrepreneur Lori Cheek. You know, she got this catchy idea for dating and how to meet people. So she quit building structures and started building relationships. And she has a pretty interesting story. And she's been on Shark Tank, so she's coming to Happy Hour to talk with us about it. So did you have a good week? Did you notice that Wednesday was the longest day of the year? I loved it. Though Wednesday was a little bit rainy. I did sit out on my deck on Tuesday and Thursday until it got too dark, and it was probably 9:30. It was so awesome that it was light even at 9 o'clock. There was still light in the sky. So I was just enjoying the best of very long daylight hours. But other than that, my week was, as usual, pretty busy. In fact, you know that old adage about how all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy? Well, I can tell you that all work and no play doesn't do anything for Annmarie either. But I'm not complaining. Ever since catching up from Girlfriend Gala, I've been in what I hope are the last edits on my next book, The 5-Year Marriage. I had some staffing problems around the book, but I'm still looking at an October publication date. Sort of seems almost impossible, but it's still doable. As long as I get everything where it needs to be by the end of this month, which of course is next week. And I've been counting my blessings this week because I had calls from 2 friends, and one of them went for her annual GYN and mammogram, and both tests came back with problems. Now, since she first called me, she ended up telling me that one was worked out and was fine, but the other one not so much. So I'm waiting to hear when she's having surgery. Now, another friend called, and she's having surgery next week, but it's planned surgery for a long-standing health issue. But since I saw her at Girlfriend Gala, her spouse has been in the hospital 4 times. That was only a month ago, with 4 different problems. And you know what? She said if he'd gone to the doctors when she first told him, for the first thing, the rest of them might not have happened. So, or at least not been as severe. So, now you victory chicks know exactly what I'm talking about. And so do you guys. But I don't know what happens to you guys. You notice something and you tell us, and we tell you to go to the doctor, but you don't. I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, I get the part about not wanting bad news, not wanting to take time off from work, and frankly, I'm right there with you on both of those issues. You're busy and you don't want to think you aren't in perfect health, so you just don't go. So that just don't go part, that's not the part I agree with you on. And here's what I said to Joseph a long time ago. I go to the doctor and do my regular checkup visits because I want to take care of my health for me and for him. Because if something happens to me, it affects him. So I think it's only fair that he gets regular checkups and takes care of his health for me and for him and for me. After all, when you're in a partnership like a marriage, almost nothing impacts just one person. You know, it's that same thing like with addictions. only one person might be an alcoholic, or whatever the most common problem is, like currently it's the opioid addiction. And just one person might be drinking or taking drugs, but it affects everyone that's in that person's circle, both at home and at work. But it's not addiction I'm talking about right now. It's basic health issues. And you guys, if you have something going on, for the love of yourself and for your sweetie, go get it taken care of. Make that appointment before it becomes something bigger. Anyway, finding out that 2 longtime friends are having serious health issues got me thinking about 2 things. And one of them was counting my blessings. Because sometimes we focus on the stuff that isn't going so well. And every once in a while, it's really good to take stock of all the good things. Although it's true, it's almost human nature to focus on what's not right for most of us. But we have more good things going on than we realize. So it's good to take stock. In fact, what? Somebody told me recently that every night at dinner, she and her family tell each other 3 things that went right that day. And when I heard that, I thought, what a good idea. Not only could it start conversation at the dinner table, but that positive energy aids digestion. So we spend so much time thinking about healthy eating and forget the one thing, negativity, that could ruin even the healthiest meals. Some of you might have heard of Misho Kushi, who was a guru in the world of macrobiotic eating, and he only died a couple of years ago. But he brought macrobiotics to the United States from Japan in the 1950s. And he used to say, as long as you have an optimistic attitude, you can eat rocks and still be healthy. And conversely, you could eat the cleanest food, but ruin the good effects by having a crappy outlook. So when I heard that 3 good things idea, I thought, I could do that. But you know what? Like we always do, I promptly forgot about it. But those phone calls this week reminded me. So counting my blessings was that one thing. The other thing was that I was thinking about plastic surgery. I was thinking if someone, like me, for example, was going to have anything nipped or tucked, now's the time to do it, when I don't have to have surgery for anything actually medical. And you might remember a few months ago I was into that Kybella stuff, but then I found out that when you get that stuff injected into your chin, and like all the whatever stuff is there dissolves, your skin has to be supple enough to contract so the fatty tissue dissolves. When the fatty tissue dissolves, and if it isn't, you might end up with serious turkey neck. So, and I forgot about the Kybella stuff. But then I was thinking about something else, like my eyes or something. Then this week, Courtney Cox, remember her from Friends, was in the news, and she's 53 now and says she regrets having so much work, including Botox injections and fillers. At midlife, you still feel like a kid, but you start to notice how gravity is doing mean stuff to your face, and everything south of your face. And then your friends start looking older, and you tell yourself, oh, it's just them and not you too. And then you see a picture of yourself, and you realize it is you too. So what do? So I maintain that the best thing for maintaining a youthful appearance is your thinking. If you're angry and bitter and resentful, and if you don't find some way to let all that go, it shows up on your face. And exercise is the other thing, because the mushy muscles help gravity. So it's positive thinking and exercise. Oh, and really good sex. Good sex releases that stuff, it's called oxytocin, and it releases endorphins, just like a heavy-duty workout. And I don't know, but the research indicates that it's anti-aging, immune-boosting, and stress-reducing, and the secret to a long life. So there you go. You have it. I've just given you the formula. It's good thinking, exercise, and good sex. But you know what? Right now we have Lori Cheek. She's here. And let me tell you a little bit. She was an architect. But she quit building structures and started building relationships using a unique idea for meeting people. Then she thought the idea was so good, she took it to the Shark Tank and just figured they would love it. But they didn't. But that didn't stop this creative dynamo from going back to the drawing board and creating something that has made Lori Cheek one of the top 10 CEOs to watch. She's fun and interesting, and she's here with us today. So go get some good happy hour something to drink, and when we come back, we're all going to get cheeked. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour. Remember when you wished you had more time for yourself? And now you have it, but you notice you're keeping busy with stuff, but that stuff isn't making you feel happy or filled up? And when you think about what would make you happy and filled up, you get stuck or feel overwhelmed. And then you go back to what's more familiar, more comfortable, even if it's not making you happy. Wouldn't you love to find a way to start making sense of that deep discontent you're feeling? Well, you're not alone. I'm Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. And I know there's a place for you, one that other women have found to be both inspirational and empowering. And it's the Victorious Woman Project. Go there now and get on my mailing list, where you'll be the first to know about my upcoming online workshops, teleseminars, and more. And while you're there, take a couple minutes to look over my blog. You can download some of the free stuff I have for you and let it get your creative juices going. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the Victorious Woman Project. And that's at www.victoriouswoman.com. Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm your host, Annmarie Kelly, and I'm here with Lori Cheek. How are you doing today, Lori?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. You know, Lori, you have such an interesting history. You started your career in architecture. So what made you decide on that career?
Well, you know, what's weird is I live in New York. I lived there for 21 years, and I grew up in Kentucky, and I'm actually sitting in the backyard of the house that I grew up in, but it's not the same house, actually. It's a different house. But our house burned when I was 13 years old. We were in it in the middle of the night, burned down to the ground. We had to run out and grab whatever we loved and wanted to take with us that day because we were about to lose everything that we owned. And it was a tragic event, but you know, we had to rebuild the house. So I remember this architect that kept coming over and rolling out these floor plans, and I saw this structure starting to get built again on paper. And I was so intrigued by the whole process, and I couldn't wait for this guy to show up every time we'd have a meeting about the house getting rebuilt. So I think that really had a lot to do with me heading in that direction. And I went to the University of Kentucky and got accepted into the architecture program there, and then it was history. Graduated and moved to New York City to become a famous architect.
And what kind of stuff did you, before I ask you that next question, let me ask you this. When your house was burning down, what did you decide, what did you all decide you had to have? Because I think about this.
You know, the crazy thing is the house was burning in the roof. Like, it was electrical, so, I mean, it was in the ceiling and the attic, and we didn't even really know because it had come down and caught fire onto a wood pile. So we didn't know that the entire house above us was burning and about to collapse.
Wow.
So we ran in and out a few times trying to grab everything we could, and the first thing I grabbed was this doll. Her name is Baby Newborn. She's missing fingers. I'd cut her hair off as a kid thinking it was all going to grow back, but... This is embarrassing, but I'm 44, and whenever I come home, I sleep with that doll. She's my only childhood memory that I have that's tangible to this day. So she's an ugly doll, but I love her.
No, Lori, listen, don't be embarrassed, because I have a doll that I was given at the Christmas that I was in 4th grade, and I still have it. I still have it, the dress is all torn. In fact, I keep thinking I want to take it to the doll hospital and get her fixed up again.
I think they're cute when they're ugly. It's like, you know why parents love ugly kids. They're babies.
Well, but it was like one of the best Christmas presents I ever had, and it was on my bed for years. You know, when I would make the bed, I would put her on the bed, and she was like a good friend. She's a good childhood memory.
Yes. Well, and we grabbed photo albums. Believe it or not, our neighbor came up right as this had happened, and we pulled a piano out of the house. I mean, we got some big items.
Oh, my goodness, you did get big stuff.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have been doing that, because once we were all out of the house, it just caved in and was completely destroyed.
Lucky. Photos are probably the other thing that I would probably get. Yeah, because like everything else is pretty replaceable, and your memories like that, you know, through pictures, They're hard to, you can't replace those.
Well, the worst part about that fire was it was one of the coldest nights in the history of Kentucky since the 1800s, and we had brought our outdoor dog in to sleep in the basement for 2 nights, and I was yelling for the dog to come up, and she wouldn't come, so we lost our dog.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it could have been the worst thing, but she's buried we found her ruins we found her bones in the ruins of the fire, and we buried her behind the house, so at least we got to do that.
Sad, yeah. But on the upside for you, that's how you got into design work, and when you moved to New York, what did you design?
So I started out at an interior design firm. I had worked at some furniture companies. I mean, starting out in architecture, we barely made anything when I first moved to New York, and there were some project management jobs and furniture layout that I did for several years, and then I went back into architecture and worked in office design for Goldman Sachs. I got a pretty cool job working in store planning and design for Christian Dior for 4 years. That was awesome. I got flown to Paris quite a bit and all over America to design shops. And then I ended up working for some high-end furniture manufacturers and doing sales and marketing for them ultimately. And then one day I had a crazy light bulb moment. It changed my life forever.
I know. So this is Cheeked. So tell us about the first version of Cheeked. How did you come about? Tell my listeners first about that, what that first version was and how it came about.
So the first version was, maybe you've spotted a cute guy at a bar, at the gym, at a coffee shop, and, you may lock eyes and walk away, and that could be the end of your opportunity. So, I mean, it had happened to me 100 times in New York, and nobody really does much about it. And especially with the way technology's taken over, I think people barely walk up and say, hey, babe, can I buy you a drink? That was a thing of the past. So I came up with this way for people to make introductions to each other with this card. So it was like a stack of business cards called Cheeked, and you could hand someone a card that says you've been cheeked on one side, and then you walk away, and the other side had one of 250 different funny pickup lines. So one of them could say, I just put all my drinks on your tab, and it had a code. So the person you'd given that card to, now you're out the door, they could go to cheeked.com and type in that code and find your online dating profile. So it was a little bit like an online dating site, but it started in the real world. So you've actually seen the person. So we called it online dating backwards.
Was it a specific one like Match or eHarmony or one of those, or was it your own?
Oh, yeah. So that was my own. It led to the Cheeked dating profile.
So how did that work for people?
Well, I used the cards. Clearly, I was single at the time, and I was marketing the business, so I handed these cards to everybody I passed on the street, and I ended up on more dates in the period where I was handing those cards out than I have in my entire life. So, I knew it worked, and I was handing them to people that ended up becoming my lifelong friends. I mean, I've had friends for 7 years because of those cards. Oh, nice. But, I think a lot of people ended up getting them, and they thought they were funny. They'd put them in their wallet, and they'd get all wrinkled up, or people were too shy to hand them out, or maybe they forgot about them, put them in a drawer. So there was that physical aspect of these cards that I don't think people took as seriously or really knew how well they might work. Because I did know, and it worked for me.
And you put everything you had into this business, right?
Yeah, I mean, I believed in it so much that I ended up leaving my career. At the height of my career, I was making $120,000 a year, and, I believed in this so much, and I just wanted to make it happen. And I thought maybe I could do both my job and create this business on the side, but there was a moment where we started getting all this amazing press. We were in the cover of the style section of the New York Times, and it said, move over, Match.com. This is the next generation of online dating. And I thought, I've got to get serious about this if I'm really going to take it to the next level. So I quit my job and started focusing 100% on my dream. And
am I remembering this correctly, that even Oprah noticed?
Soon after that article in the New York Times came out, we got an email from one of her producers wanting a deck of cards and an interview with me. And I remember the second that email came in, I started crying. I called my mom. I couldn't even get the words out about this email from Oprah Winfrey's studio. I mean, I knew about the effect. But I had that interview, sent them a deck of cards, and we never heard anything again. So that was unfortunate. But still, how many people get a phone call from Oprah?
That's really true. I have not yet had one from Oprah, so someday, Lori, someday. So you were talking, you mentioned to me that you had some challenges when you first got started, and you had put everything you had, and then you said you made some bad business decisions. And for some of my listeners who are starting out, what can you tell them about your bad business decisions that will help them not do the same thing?
Well, I made 100 bad business decisions. First of all, I was an architect. I had no idea how difficult it was to build a business or anything about getting it started. I mean, even incorporating your business and the patent and the trademarks and business plan, raising money, even getting a team around you, which I think is really crucial, especially if it's involving some sort of technology, which we had a website. So I remember one night, a year after I'd come up with the idea, I was at a Mardi Gras party, and there were these two business guys there that heard my idea, and they said, "This is a great idea. We help startups get off the ground, and we'd love to sit down on Monday and talk about taking you to the next level." And I was just excited that there were two people that could, give me a boost. So within a week, they ended up sending me a contract. I signed it. But I think that was the very first mistake I made, because although they were both smart guys, they were like clones of each other. So when you're giving equity away, you don't need to give it to two of the same skill sets. I needed a business person.
Like they were each getting an equal share of that, and they were doing pretty much the same things?
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I was just happy to have a team, and I didn't realize what I really needed was a tech person. Because if you have someone in-house doing your technology, you don't get ripped off the way you might if you hire a local New York City app developer or web developer. So, yeah, that was one of the biggest lessons I'd learned. And, I think it's really important also to get people that believe in your idea as much as you do to surround you. One of the guys, we were at a meeting one day, and he had to leave early, and I saw him write his phone number down on a corner of a piece of notebook paper, and as he left the meeting, he handed that piece of paper to a girl at a nearby table. I mean, this is when we already had Cheeked cards.
Oh, my goodness. So he's partnering with you with Cheeked, and he's handwriting his phone number? He's not using the product that he's supposed to be.
That's exactly what we were solving with these cards. Mm-hmm. I remember watching him do that, and I was trembling, still in the middle of this meeting that he had to leave, and I sent him a text under the table asking if he just handed his phone number to that girl, and he said yes. I'm like, "Do you know what business we're building?" And he said yes, but I didn't have a card. I'm like, how can you... I don't know. You get it.
Yeah. Lori, your next step was going to Shark Tank. We need to take a break, so we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with, and I'm going to hear about your Shark Tank experience. So everybody, hang close. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Hi, this is Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. I trust you're enjoying my conversation with this fabulous, victorious woman. If you're getting inspired with ideas and feeling empowered, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more for you. Tips, downloads, resources at the Victorious Woman Project. Go to victoriouswoman.com and look around and get on my mailing list so you can be the first to know about the newest good things I have for you. That's www.victoriouswoman.com.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm your host, Annmarie Kelly, and I'm here with Lori Cheek. We're talking about her dating app. And, Lori, we started, I teased this by saying that you were in Shark Tank. And was it hard to get on that show?
Well, I guess if interesting enough to them, it's not. I remember I had a friend, knowing I was going through all these struggles, that sent me the link one day, and she said, Shark Tank is looking for contestants for the upcoming season. Why don't you apply? So I just clicked on the link, filled it out, and I pretty much had forgotten that I'd done it. And I think 3 months later, I got a phone call from L.A., and they're like, this is ABC, and we're interested in taking you to the next level. I started screaming. And
sure.
Yes, it was like by the time I had gone through all the paperwork they'd sent me and the videos I had to make, all the legal stuff I had to research, I had to get my lawyers involved with our patent and trademarks, and every designer that was ever involved had to sign off on our logo. So I don't know, by the time
that was a ton of work.
Oh, it was intense. I mean, the first package you get from them was 50 pages, I think, of questions, and you had to handwrite the answers. So if you messed up, and it had to be in ink, you had to
handwrite the answers in ink?
Yes, I don't even understand why, but you couldn't type it. It had to be in ink, and if you messed up, you had to wad up the paper, print it back out, and it was so cryptic. But
wow.
For whatever reason, I don't know. You sign the thing at the end, and they have all the rights to all the information you send them. But yeah, by the time I'd finished the whole 7-8 months of trying to get on the show, I could have had a law degree.
Lori, it's really funny. One of my some friends of mine who've become friends since I first interviewed them a couple of years ago bake these awesome liqueur cakes. And in the first couple of years, they had an opportunity to go on Martha Stewart, and they had to turn over the recipe to like their signature cake, and they wouldn't do it. And it sort of surprised me. When you do something like that, whoever you're doing it with, whether it's the Shark Tank or in her case Martha Stewart, they really want you to sign over your firstborn kid.
Sort of, but when your business is on the line like that, you're pretty much willing to do anything. I mean, it's like saving a child that's sick. That's how I often refer to my business. So I was going to do anything to keep it alive.
Right.
And luckily 4 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. So who were the sharks who were there that time?
So it was all of them except Dame and John. So it was Barbara, Lori, Kevin, Robert Hershevik, and Mark Cuban.
What was it like presenting in front of those sharks?
I've spoken on stages with thousands of people in front of me, and I get a little nervous. But there was something that shook me to my core about getting ready to go on that show. I mean, they fly you out to L.A. 4 or 5 days before, and you really don't know when you're going to go on. And some days they get you prepared to go on, and they're backed up, so you might go back on the next day. But I was an absolute wreck. I mean, I felt like I had lost all emotion. I've never been through anything like this. But, my business was on the line, and I knew more than just the sharks. I think I was more freaked out about the world. This is national television, and it's aired over and over and over again, and you're just very vulnerable. The world is ready to attack you, and it's huge. There's 8 million viewers on that show, or probably more to this day, but when I was on, that was the going rate.
Mm-hmm. And the sharks aren't, they don't hold anything back.
Well, it's reality television, so I tried to keep that in check. Mm-hmm. And, I was so nervous that I could barely speak. I was with my producers right before I was getting ready to walk out. I had a fiance at the time. We're not together anymore, but he was with me, and I couldn't even talk to him. I felt sick that I was getting ready to go out there. I don't know what got me so freaked out. And we had the cool movie trailer type thing, so we had one of those, and I remember having a couple glasses of wine just to get my nerves shaken down, but that didn't help at all. But I didn't want to drink anymore because I just didn't want to sound drunk.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Lori, it's funny. There was a time that I was speaking in North Carolina, and And for whatever reason, I just worked, I think it's what you do inside your head, because I just worked myself up into such a tizzy that I just couldn't even focus. I couldn't focus. It was awful. And I was speaking, like I had 2 days left before I had to get everything ready, and I just couldn't move it forward. And I just happened to get a phone call from somebody who was a coach, and not specifically my coach, but she was, but that's what she did. And I was telling her, I said, no, I'm really having a problem with this. She talked to me, and I have no idea what happened in the course of, I wish I taped that phone call, because something flipped a switch in my head. I got off that phone. I did whatever I needed to do. That day, I was way well prepared. And I thought, wow, that's like the power of your mind. Like what you do inside your head sometimes can really set you in a good direction or a not so good direction. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I definitely did a trick on myself that day for sure.
So what happened with Shark Tank?
So I walked out there, and I remember walking down that hallway with all the sharks on both sides of you. Then once they open the doors, you're standing in front of them, so it's silence. It's like one of those old country western stare-offs, and what could have been 30 seconds felt like
a
maybe
million
5
years.
minutes. Yeah, it was forever. Time was standing still. My heart was beating in my throat. I was worried. Although I had practiced that 2-minute pitch 7 million times, I was worried the words weren't going to come out of my mouth. And then I remember Robert said, he looked up I had this crazy outfit on, but he looked me head to toe, and he said, wow. And that meant, okay, go. So at least he sort of broke the ice in that way. I mean, I felt like it was kind of a compliment, or wow, you're crazy. Whatever it was, it calmed me down for a second. And I forgot what they said when you get to go, but finally I started the pitch. And I remember even on the Twitter feed after my show aired, everybody was like, the cheeked robot needs to blink or breathe, because whatever I did, I got the words out, but I was not myself. So I wasn't my fun, outgoing, Lori cheeky self. I just got the words out, and I probably wasn't breathing or blinking. Yeah, so anyway, I think they started talking for a couple minutes about the idea I'd presented. Mark Cuban seemed to really get it more than the rest of them, and he was even trying to convince them why people need this. And then, it's all excitement, and I just couldn't believe how they were going on and on and on. And I'm like, okay, when do I get to say something, or when are they going to start attacking me? And as soon as I thought that, there comes Kevin. He's like, okay, hold on. Let's talk about the money. So that's where everything started going downhill. Although I think they thought the idea was cute, the second I had to talk about my numbers,
not so much.
It wasn't interesting. So they didn't see my idea through the money I'd made, and then he just hated it from that moment when I had said for 4 years I made so much money. And he's like, how are you living in New York City, in the most expensive city in America? It's like, you need to stop your hobby and go back and get your other job. And, so the rest of them kind of followed suit. I think usually when one of them goes that way, the producers even said, once you start going into that hole, it's hard to crawl out of it. And I remember he started telling me one of those stories about the dog, a rabid dog that needed to be taken behind a barn and shot, and that was like my business.
Oh, my goodness.
No, it was brutal, but the whole time I was standing there, I was like, I don't care that these 5 billionaires don't get this idea. They're rich, they're old, they don't know what it's like to be single. They don't know what it's like to be a normal person living in New York City where no one says hello to each other. So I wasn't about to quit no matter what. And Barbara...
Go ahead.
I was going to say Barbara Corcoran was the one who hadn't gone out, and I realized, okay, they're all out. And I'm like, okay, Barbara, I know you believe in people. And she said, Lori, as hard as it is for me to say this, I'm out, but you're the right entrepreneur with the wrong idea. So, I took that, I left, and I modified my idea.
And that's the thing, Lori, because I just can't even imagine what that Shark Tank experience would be like, and I would probably be just like how you were if it was my idea. But, some people would leave and say, well, 5 billionaires thought it was a crappy idea. I must be wrong. I must be barking up the wrong tree. You didn't do that. You did, they would do that and then crawl into a hole. You just didn't do that. Instead, you reinvented your idea.
Yeah, when I came back from that, I was a little depressed for a couple of months.
Sure.
Just waiting, because I didn't know how they were going to edit that 45 minutes of that discussion into a show. Were they going to make me look good, or were they going to make me look bad? And, I knew the results, but I decided to have a party anyway. So I invited everybody for my airing. I invited 600 people. I think we had about 250 at the party, and I remember everybody kept saying, "Oh, you must have gotten a deal or you wouldn't have had this party." I'm like, well, just hold on.
So wait, you had 250 people come to watch the show? Where did you go with 250 people?
Well, there was a rooftop in Midtown Manhattan that some party promoter wanted me to have the party at, and he helped me throw the party, and we invited everybody in the New York City tech scene, anyone that I had on my database. I just wanted to celebrate the national exposure because I knew it was going to lead to something, even if the Sharks didn't get the idea. And the reality is it did, because that next day, I had a few too many drinks that night after watching what had happened with the edit.
And how did your guests respond to it?
Well, I think they were happy for me. Once a lot of them were like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "You don't understand. This is all going to be good in the end because I'm going to spin this somehow. Like whatever is negative in here, I'm going to work with it." So that next morning, I remember waking up like a train had hit me, and I was just like, oh, that episode was on last night. Then I opened up my phone. You couldn't even, if you tried to flip through every single email I had, the Twitter feed, our Facebook wall on Cheeked it was insane. There must have been 3,000 emails in my inbox. I'd say 1,000 of them were talking about my nose, my hair, just really attacking things physically about you, my outfit. But you know what? 2,900 people were like, "This is an amazing idea. Don't listen to them. Whatever you do, don't give up on your dream. I'll be so upset with you. I want this. Where do I get this? Blah, blah, blah." It was on and on and on. Investors flooding our inbox. So that was the beauty of that whole horrible experience, that the world was saying, yes, go, go, go. And that episode re-airs still all over the world. And our traffic starts going up on Google. We get thousands and thousands of people coming to our website, and now they see there's a new version, and we get downloads on our new app from it.
Very nice. And that's what I want to talk about. We need to take a break, but when we come back, that's when I want to talk about your Cheeked mobile app. Okay. So everybody hang in there. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Are you one of those women who lived the first part of your life as a really good girl? That is, you did all the right things and followed all the so-called rules for women. I was like that too. But have you noticed that once you passed 40, you have less patience for those rules? Maybe you even think that the rules really don't make sense for you anymore. Maybe they never did and you just didn't realize it. Do you want to go where other recovering good girls meet to inspire each other and support their new empowered selves? Then join me, Annmarie Kelly, and some very fabulous victorious women. We're on Facebook at the Victorious Woman Project. So go to facebook.com/Victorious Woman Project. I'll talk to you there.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm Annmarie Kelly. I'm here with Lori Cheeked, and we're talking about the Cheeked mobile app. Well, we're starting to talk about it. Tell me what it is, Lori.
So the Cheeked app is a little bit like those cards, but you don't have to hand those physical cards out anymore. After the Shark Tank aired, my partner and I, a new partner that came on board right before I went out to film the Shark Tank, we sat down after it aired and wanted to talk about how to remove that dark cloud that had appeared over our business after that episode. And we decided to take my idea and put a unique technology in it that wasn't available back in the day when I came up with those cards. So now if you're at a bar or a cafe at the gym and someone else is on the app, if you come within a 30-foot radius of someone else on the app that's within your age filters or male or female, you get a push notification that says you just missed Matt M, for example, and then he gets the same thing. So you can see that you're both in the same area. So you have the opportunity to start a real-life conversation before starting this virtual nonsense like most online dating apps and sites do. So
yeah, you get a wink and then,
yeah, it's about meeting people in the real world still.
How do you know if you're near somebody? Like, how does that happen?
Well, the technology we're using is like beacons, so it's a Bluetooth technology, and the other cool thing is it works on the subway or a plane with no Wi-Fi or cell signal. So if you're sitting at the end of a subway car with someone that's maybe up your alley, you'll get a notification that they're there, and then you could either send a note and say, hey, let's grab a coffee, or you could just say, hey, you're cute, or something. So you're able to send a chat, or you could walk up to the person and say something to them. But basically, both people have to have the app, and if you're in the same 30-foot radius, it'll be immediate.
That's pretty fascinating. I think because a lot of times, and you're doing the bars or you're like walking around and you just never even know. So how do you get onto the app?
Well, it's a free app right now. It's only on iPhone for the meantime. We'll get it on Android eventually, but you just go to the iTunes store, download Cheeked, the dating app. It's free, and you can sign up with Facebook, or you can even sign up with your phone number. We found out a lot of people don't want to use Facebook for dating apps, so we put a new sign-in opportunity into it.
So how are you getting people to sign up for the app? Because obviously if it only works if with people who have the app, how do you do that?
Yeah, so that's one of the challenges of having an app, is that everybody else has to be on it. And that was the greatest thing about those cards, is I could have been the only person in the whole world with these cards, and I could go to Shanghai and hand someone one, and it still would work. But yeah, getting customers on an app is not that easy. But we've done some ads. We do a lot of events. So even Tuesday in New York City, we're having a summer lovin' party. So we've invited all these singles to come together, and hopefully they get the app and they can start seeing who's in the room and maybe send them a message, but it's just about brand awareness. And we've also invited some other matchmakers that are going to be part of it, and we're all sharing each other's network, so they'll be inviting people that I don't know, so hopefully that will bring new customers.
Very nice.
I don't know, we do all sorts of things. I go around speaking at events and hosting things with other people as well.
Interesting. So, Lori, tell me this. How is this whole experience, the creating the cards, being on Shark Tank, the developing the mobile app, and doing this, everything you're doing to bring brand awareness to Cheeked, how has it changed your life?
This has been that moment. I didn't even mention how I came up with the idea, but as an architect, one night I was out to dinner with another architect. The two of us were just catching up, and it was a handsome guy. He had spotted an intriguing stranger in the restaurant. He went up and handed her his business card, and he'd written on the back of it, "Want to have dinner?" And that was the moment when he handed her that card. The two of them went on a date, I think that following week. I couldn't stop thinking about creating these real-life introductions via this card without really making this awkward introduction of yourself or interrupting whatever conversation she was having. So, that light bulb moment in time changed my life forever, and I don't know what my life would be to this day if I hadn't been at that dinner at that time and spotted that whole thing happen. But it's been the most magical experience of my life. Although the struggles, I was nearly homeless for a period before I went on the Shark Tank. I say I could be the walking poster child of what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. And, nothing at this point I feel like can get me down about this. And, not only have I taken this business to the next level after making so many mistakes, my partner and I have also just launched a new app with another gentleman. It's called Networked, and it's on Android, and it's a networking app that works similar to the dating app. So if you're at a networking event or a co-working space or even at a cafe, if you've got the app, you can set your filters to looking for an investor or an app developer or anything, or I'm hiring or I'm looking for a job. So it connects you in a 30-foot radius via Bluetooth on this new networking app. So, if you told me I was going to be running around the world building apps or talking about technology 12 years ago, I would have told you you're an insane person. But here I am. I'm on your radio show talking about a dating app.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So now, are you attached?
I'm not right now. I got engaged to a guy through handing him a card many years ago, and I just haven't found the guy who's going to sweep me off my feet yet, but I hope I find him on my own app.
Well, I hope so too, and you know what I always tell people, it's better than, because for a long time when I was single, and you know, in every wedding it's like, do you have any, did you meet anybody, or are you getting married? And finally I just got to the point where I used to say, it's better to be an old maid than to wish you were one.
Well, you know, even that guy I was engaged to, he kept wanting my business to fail so I would be more available to him. And, you know, that was a huge red flag. And I'm much more happy being single than with someone who wants my business to die.
Larry, what are a couple of good tips that you can give my listeners if they have an idea that they think could be gold? And would you recommend going on Shark Tank?
I recommend anyone to go onto the Shark Tank. I mean, I could have been one of the most epic episodes in the history of Shark Tank, and I still took it to the next level somehow. You know, it's changed my life. I've had strangers reach out to me that I've met for meetings, and I've become friends with these people. I mean, hundreds. It's insane. I just think it's all how you take criticism, and I looked at it as an opportunity or even a challenge. So if you're not good at, or if you're just not strong or determined, I think it's the most incredible attribute of an entrepreneur. You've got to be relentless and resilient. So unless you've got a thick skin, I would say don't even think about A, starting a business, or B, even stepping into that Shark Tank, because it's not really warm and cozy in there.
I think you have to be really, really passionate about whatever it is that you're doing, because being in business is just not. I've been in business a long time, and so has my spouse, different businesses, and we know it's the ups and downs. Especially at the beginning, the downs are come fast and furious. Mm-hmm. and then you turn a corner, and then it becomes different, but. You know, so I think that's something that it's good for people to know, and that you just took whatever that negativity was, didn't internalize it in a negative way, and then moved it and turned it around to something really good. I think that's what entrepreneurs have to learn to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kept me awake many nights over the past 7 years, but, you know, the fact that I'm spending all day, every day, building my own dream instead of going to work from 9 to 7 every day building someone else's dream has been the most amazing thing that has ever happened in my life. And, you know, I mentioned I'm at my parents' house right now for 10 days. That's something I could never do with a corporate job. I mean, it's changed my personal relationships with my family and travel opportunities, and I can work remotely from anywhere. And I just think it's just been great on all levels.
Neat. Good stuff, Lori. If my listeners want to get your Cheeked mobile app, how can they do it?
Just go to the iTunes store and look for Cheeked, CHEEKD. Maybe Cheek Dating. It should come to the top of your search, and it's a free download. And if you want to find us on Facebook and Twitter, we're also at Cheeked, CHEEKD. And
it's on for my listeners who know I do the radio wrap-up, all that information is also on the radio wrap-up at victoriouswoman.com. Lori, thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Nice speaking with you.
Same here. And so, Victory Chicks and you guys, could you use a mobile app to meet a new special someone? Could be interesting. I wanted to, just in case you're listening, Kathleen, I was at a party last week with Joseph's friends from before I met him. And they were like family to him, the McWilliams family. We were at a party with them last weekend and had a fabulous time. Sorry we didn't get even more time, and I hope it won't be such a long time before we see the Pat and Joan and Rosie. That's who had the party, and I got to see Kathleen McWilliams. And Kathleen, if you're listening, I know that's not your name anymore. But your kids are great. Your kids are beautiful. I'm just so shocked with people. Joni was a toddler at my first wedding, so she's, a full-grown adult woman now. and it makes me feel old. But I don't know what you have planned for this week. And don't forget the Delaware County Rose Tree Park has their summer concert series going on right now. So if you're looking for something to do this week, for Sunday, they have Lights Out tribute to Frankie Valli. And I have a cool quote for you today. It's about summer. What else? It's the longest day just passed. And this quote is from Ada Lewis Huxtable, who, in keeping with our architect-turned-entrepreneur theme, she was an architectural critic and writer who won the Pulitzer Prize for Architecture. So about summer, she said, summer is the time when one sheds one's tensions with one's clothes, and the right kind of day is a jeweled balm for the battered spirit. A few of those days, and you can become drunk with the belief that all's right with the world. I love that. And I'll add this to it. If you don't watch the news all weekend, you'll become convinced that everything is good. So just, try it for one weekend. Listen, whatever you do, have a great time. Thanks for coming to Happy Hour with me today. Please come back next Friday, and I'll talk to you then. Jen's on.
Thanks for listening to this Friday Happy Hour. Make sure you subscribe, rate and review today's show. And join us again next week for the Friday Happy Hour with Annmarie Kelly.